Hello and welcome to another Doctor's Assistant 1 video, and today I'm taking a look at the episode slash story castrovalva, starring Peter Davison. We have Peter Davison here, Peter Davison there too, in the Magic Circle of Doom. The Peter Davison years 1982 to 1984, Doctor Who, castrovalva, BBC, DVD. This sort of circular-esque pattern thing of sorts with Peter Davison and two other characters at the side. You've got the same sort of stuff on the spine, 2 Entertainment, BBC, castrovalva, Peter Davison again, Doctor Who. Then on the back you've got the legal information guff, special features stuff, the bio, and the strip of screenshots from the story. On the inside you've got the writer's note booklet and the disc, of course. So what did I think of castrovalva? Well, I think it's not the strongest story. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a weak story. It's not by any means terrible. It's not, Nightmares of Eden level of bad, or Delta and the Bannerman levels of bad either. It's no extraordinary, where some episodes of Doctor Who, you question whether or not they went out of their way to make you suffer when you're watching it. This isn't one of those stories, but by the same token, it's not one of the gems. It's not one of the golden oldies that people say this is a must-have to watch, which is a shame, because I think that then, I think a lot of people think of most of Peter Davison's stories and think of, it's alright, There's not a lot of massive classics. There are a few, of course, but compared to the 60s and 70s, there's less. And so I think it just shows that the show sort of went downhill from here. And even this story is probably the last best sort of, or the last good, even I wouldn't say best, but the last good, Doctor sort of regeneration-y story, or beginning of a Doctor's era sort of story. And even then it's not perfect, but I think in comparison to Twin Dilemma and Time in the Rani, it's probably an improvement, even though saying that, I've not watched either of those stories. But yeah, the Doctor isn't in this very much, and I think that might have been what the inspiration for the Christmas Invasion was. Where David Tennant isn't in the story that much, but where this one, the Pete Davison isn't in it that much and the Doctor isn't, at least we get the awesome introduction, and unfortunately the only time we see it, to the Zero Room, which I think is amazing and should definitely come back, in the new series with a new, design and stuff. Because it would be a perfect way of, doing a Doctor-like story. The Doctor's just in the Zero Room, and then you just get the companion having a story of their own for a one-off, whilst the Doctor has to heal because he's been, blasted by an explosion, and, it's clearly done some damage to his head. But yeah, here it works. The Zero Room is a very good bit of part 1, and the cliffhanger to part 1 is excellent as well. Probably the best cliffhanger of the lot of these, the ones in this story of sorts. And I think episode 1 is just the most airtight / focused episode or part to this story, this 4-part story. I think it's the one that, as I say, has the most going for it and has a very clear beginning, middle and end, whereas the other ones are very much just a run around, which, is fine in Genesis, where it feels like it's more necessary because it's a 6-part story, or Inferno, or the Sea Devils. They all make sense to have a lot of running around and stuff and padding out in that sense, and going from one place to another, where here it's a 4-part story, so you want it to be a lot more airtight, a lot more less padded out, and a lot more focused. And I think that's what I like about a lot of the Tom Baker stories that are 4-part stories. They are very much more focused and driven, and there's an intensity there, but also at the same time there's this air of you can develop the story, not to the same extent as a 6-part story, of course, but even so, it's more than here, where it's just a run around. The Master is in this story, but he is very meh as well, and just okay. The set design for the most part is pretty good for the time, and a lot of the stuff is very much shot on location, if not in the TARDIS corridors, which I'm fine with, or in the castrovalvan place, which is, again, fine. The only set that I didn't really like was the weird Master's sex dungeon thing, which really, really was terrible. And I think out of the New Beginnings box set, the Keeper of Track and Logopolis and this, I think this is the weakest by far. And that I think Pete Davison is at the helm of this story, of course, but even so, he's very barely in it. Adric's barely in this story, and Nyssa and Tegan are the main two companions. Tegan, as always, is very much aggravatingly annoying, and Nyssa is probably the only companion that I found likeable and bearable, and even more so likeable in this story. The side characters are okay. Everything just is okay and average. Nope goes out of its way to, make you feel really like this is a shit story by any means, but by the same token, Nope goes out of its way to be like, yes, we are going to be the next, Robots of Death, or, Genesis of the Daleks, or the next Inferno, or Spearhead from Space, or Robot, for example, and where John Pertwee and Tom Baker, very much ride the part of the Doctor head on into the chaos from the get-go. Pete Davison doesn't, and he takes a sort of backburnery, backbench sort of approach, and I think I get that, because as an actor he has gone on record many a time to say that what he wanted to do with the part of the Doctor was to add this element of self-doubt to the character, which had been lost with John Pertwee and Tom Baker, which is all well and good, but at least build up to that, with, a few other stories and stuff under your belt, because here you are not coming across like you're very sure of yourself as a character, and then it, makes the audience feel like, oh, well, I don't know if I can trust this guy, as the Doctor, or, the actor and the Doctor, this new incarnation's a bit iffy, but I think Peter Davison is good with what he's been given, which isn't much, and I think he is good here, and I do like the fact that they go into depth about the sort of techno jargon about the brain and the synapses and stuff about regeneration and that. But I think from here onto the current, most recent regeneration from Matt Smith to Capaldi, I think every regeneration has gone pretty much bad, and they've never had just a smooth transition, which I think is kind of getting a bit boring now. In retrospect, I can imagine back then it would have been awesome because it would have been the first time, but then you get, from this, which is not that bad of a transition, to then, Twin Dilemma one where, you've got Colin Baker's Doctor trying to kill Perry and that, I get there would be a hecticness, but at least tone it back from time to time, or just have the Doctor be completely assured of who he is in the next incarnation, or not so much assured of who he is straight away, but at least make him come across like he's, even though he doesn't know who he is, he's taking charge at least, because that's assuring the audience, that, even if the writers don't have that good an idea of where to take the Doctor, at least the main lead actor feels confident in the role, So yeah, I think Castrovalva, as a last thought, it's okay, and I would give it a 5 out of 10. Thanks for watching, comment, rate, and subscribe.